The second dimension of reliability concerns the actual content of what the source says. This is often closely tied into the origin of the source and for obvious reasons is more difficult to generalize about. But there are certainly some themes to look out for. The first thing to ask is whether the source is factual, because if it is, it can be checked. If you can't verify something, then it can't be reliable. This is philosopher Karl Popper's principle of falsification. Consider this extract from the 1911 census in Britain. Is it reliable? Yes, because it's official, and the methods used to produce the data were scientific. And most importantly, it is reliable because it is factual and can be checked. And I've checked it. That's my grandmother. I know when and where she was born, and I know she was living in that house in 1911. It is reliable. This is why you have to provide references for those essays you write, so that the claims you make can at some point be checked against reliable factual sources. This is what we mean by corroboration, when two or more independent accounts agree with each other. This is Paul Revere's famous engraving of the Boston Massacre of March 1770, and this shows Captain Preston ordering the Redcoats to fire on the innocent civilians of Boston. But did he order the Redcoats to fire? The Boston Gazette newspaper from March the 12th corroborates Revere's image. It says that in response to the snowball throw in public, the captain commanded them to fire. But importantly, this is not the only view. It is a view contradicted by the London Chronicle newspaper and by Preston's own statement given at his trial, in which he says a shot was fired spontaneously by one of his men who was being attacked, and then all was confusion, with shots fired in, I quote, a hurry. This is why in exam papers you are asked to compare and contrast sources, because this is what historians do. Does it matter who fired first?
I bet you have.
Well, yes, it changes everything. Which brings me on to the question of objectivity. For the Patriots, what happened in Boston was a massacre. For the English, it was a mere incident. Words matter. When we looked at the origin and purpose of the source, we examined the reasons why it might be unreliable. When looking at the content, we are looking for evidence of that unreliability. And this is where your English lessons will come in handy. Is the language of the source objective and measured, or is it emotive and persuasive? Is the author using rhetorical devices? Is there hyperbole and exaggeration? Are the questions loaded? Is there any evidence of ideological construct or ideological language? Are the factory owners captains of industry or the exploiting bourgeoisie?
The bourgeoisie this is the bourgeoisie that!
And it's not just language that needs to be taken into consideration. The same questions may be asked of photographs, the visual arts, and the political cartoons so beloved of examiners. I find that photographs in particular cause problems for my students, who are often reduced to repeating variations of the aphorism that the camera never lies. Photographs are framed in both time and space. The photographer makes a conscious decision to exclude both the outside of the frame and the moment before and after the shutter is pressed. Which brings me to my final question to ask of the content of a source. Is it complete? This is my favourite way to illustrate why it matters if the source is complete. This is a famous photograph by Thomas Hopke, a German photographer. It shows a group of friends enjoying a morning in the sun. The meaning of the image changes dramatically, however, when we put it into a wider, more complete perspective, in both space and time.
In the sunshine over Gramercy.
It is exactly the same with other sources which may have been edited and presented inevitably out of context. Is the extract really typical of the author? Why did the statistics only show those countries in those particular years? And are all the questions of the survey included?
Do you think there's a lack of discipline in our comprehensive schools?
Yes.
Do you think young people welcome some authority and leadership in their lives?
Yes.
Do you think they respond to a challenge?
Yes.
Would you be in favour of reintroducing national service?
Oh, well, I suppose I might.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Of course you would, Bernard. After all you've told, you can't say no to that. So, they don't mention the first 5 questions, and they publish the last one.
Is that really what they do?
Well, not the reputable ones, no, but there aren't many of those.
Now, this encourages the problems which in psychology are called heuristic biases. We tend to make general conclusions from incomplete, oversimplified, and unrepresentative evidence. So as well as inquiring about the origin and purpose of the source, we should also be concerned with how that source has been presented and what wider context may have been left out.